What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Part-Time Watchers podcast with Keith and Lorcan, where we talk about everything in the world of pop culture, entertainment, movies, comic books, TV shows, video games, you name it, and we might talk about it part-time.
Nice.
Lorcan, how the hell are you doing?
I'm alright, yeah. You know, like we're still in virus land at the minute. You know, cases have come back. But you know, we're not stressing. We're trying not to stress about the whole thing. Cinemas are, you know, open again. Tennis is going to get pushed back again, probably. So we'll see how it goes. I think it might. I think it might in Ireland, depending on how the numbers go again. But
it's not.
You're so adamant at this stage. You're just like, it's going to happen. It's going to come out, even if one person goes and I'm the one person there. Yeah.
Look, at the end of August, I'm going to be sitting in a cinema, and whether or not they put Tenet on the screen is up to them, but I'm going to be sitting there.
You're going to be watching it on your phone after someone done a really bad camera recording of it as well, because they were the only person in their cinema in like Spain or something.
Yeah, well, I don't care. Either way, I'm going to be sitting in a cinema when I do that.
Fair enough.
I want to be in a cinema.
Yeah, I know. It's all good. It's all good, though. We'll definitely survive, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Survive, look what you just did there.
Segue.
Oh, you should check out our new show, Survive. Hey, look at that. What a good segue. Nah, just kidding. But seriously, if you're interested, we have a new show for anyone who's listened to the podcast that might not be following our YouTube channel. Yeah, for one, go and subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
If you're interested in that.
Here? Run on over there and then come back here, because we need the numbers here too. You need to spread the numbers, but you listen to Keith. Ignore me.
Yeah, you're so good at the promos. You always just say it so clearly. It's not confusing at all.
Not at all.
No. But yeah, we have a new show called Survive, which we're dropping every Wednesday-ish, midweek sometime. Actually, I meant to do a post about it today. We'll do a post about it later on today, so check that out on our Instagram page. I think this week we have... I think it's the heavyweights of the MCU and the DCU. So we got some pretty heavy hitters on this week, on this week's episode of Survive. So we put 4 fictional characters in a small abandoned town. One of them has to keep you alive in this town, while the other 3 try and hunt you down. Very tactical decisions you have to be thinking about when you're picking who you choose here. And myself and Lorcan just talk about it and pick who we would pick.
Yeah, and make
but it's been really cool.
Uninformed decisions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That will in no doubt get everyone really, really angry when they listen to it. But like you know, comment below. Let us know.
Exactly, yeah. So we'll be putting a post up about that later on today, which could already be on the Instagram page if you haven't seen that. But go and check that out and let us know below who you would pick to save you, or to be the character to keep you alive in this situation. So yeah, go and check out YouTube and our Instagram page for that. But today, we are back for episode 50. Would you believe that? It's actually probably like episode like 60 something, because our numbering's all off.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nifty 50. So that's close to a year. Very close to a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're like I'm trying to think of what's like 50th wedding anniversary. Is that Diamond? Are we a Diamond podcast yet?
I don't care about Diamond. I just want to be platinum. That's the big one.
I don't think there is one. I think we'll make it up. I think this is platinum. 50 is platinum.
Okay, let's just make up our own rules. Great. But on today's episode of the podcast, we got some cool stuff coming up. We're going to be talking about DC FanDome, because they're dropping loads of information on that. Captain Marvel 2 has a new director. John Wick 5 is coming. So all of this stuff, and we're also going to be talking about the main topic for the day is we are going to be running down some really cool shows that are in development at streaming services and different channels and stuff, and running down the ones that we're most excited to see. But there's a lot of cool TV shows that are in development at the moment, and a lot of really exciting ones. So we're going to be running through them at the end. And as always, there are time codes below. So if you don't want to listen to us the whole time, just flick around through the episode of your favorite parts, you know? Nice. You will miss a lot of good waffle, though. Solid waffle.
Solid, well thought out waffle.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah. Let's get started with the newsy news for the week. In movie news, Lorcan, we are talking about DC FanDome. We know it's coming out, or not coming out. We know that the event is their 24-hour event that DC are running at the end of this month, August 22nd. It's going to be running for the whole 24 hours, and everybody can just tune in to live stream it whenever you want, which is cool. But they have been dropping some teasers this week. So obviously the DC FanDome actual pages, their social pages, have been dropping a lot of teasers, but we've also had people like James Gunn have been dropping a teaser, because he's obviously going to be there for the Suicide Squad.
With a sick new logo. Sick new logo.
New logo, which is cool. James Wan released the promo as well, because he's obviously going to be there for Aquaman 2. It doesn't have Jason Momoa's name on the list, but I'm assuming maybe he'll be one of like the surprise people, because they've listed like
The
about
surprise guy
200
for his
people.
own film.
Yeah, they've listed
Headlining.
like 200 people that are going to be attending, like virtually attending the event. And I think it's like Ben Affleck's not on it, which shouldn't be surprising.
Nah.
Henry Cavill's not on it, and Jason Momoa's not on it. But the other person that did drop a teaser, it was a lot of other people, but the other big dog that dropped a teaser was The Rock. Dropped basically the same teaser as everybody else, but at the end it had like a little flash of like a silhouette of him as Black Adam or something. Basically, The Rock always needs to like one up everybody, even
And then
his
a
own
little bit of
companies.
writing at the bottom saying, I actually invented FanDome. FanDome was my idea a long time ago. I'm the greatest on The Rock. And that's what it said afterwards. And then it said 2020, The Rock president sneak in. Like that.
Sneaking at the end, yeah. He's going to announce his presidency or his run for presidency like a month beforehand.
Yeah, he's the worst. But, like, but kind of also the best, but like also the worst as well. He's just such a media whore. I hate him.
That's hard. I wouldn't say hate him, but I'm
No,
definitely sick
I
of
don't
his
hate him,
media
but I'm
shit.
sick of him. I'm just sick of him at this stage.
Have you unfollowed him yet?
Yeah, oh, massively. Like,
Yeah,
I
that's
done
good.
that ages ago. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't handle it. I think I'd done it around the time when Rampage came out, and he was
Oh, yeah.
talking about how Rampage was the biggest movie in the world, and I'm just like, it's not, and it's awful, and it's the worst.
Well, you see,
Oh.
at that time he was talking about like it was Rampage, it was that other movie where he's a hero.
The other
What
movie
was it?
where he's a hero as well.
Which is
Then
basically every one of it. The other movie where he's a hero and he's got an estranged ex-wife or some crap like that he saves, and his daughter. And it's got a big building, skyscraper.
Oh yeah, but he's got
Skyscraper is the other one he was
yeah,
promoing that year.
yeah, but you know he's an everyman because he got one leg. You know what I mean? But like he can still jump from a crane to a skyscraper, like taking like 60
Yeah.
jumps. Oh, that film
It
is
is so
awful as well.
It is so hilarious how, like, in a lot of his movies, he's just pitched as the everyman. But it's like,
The
look at you.
everyman.
You're like 7 foot, 400 pound, ripped and shredded. Like,
Oh,
you're not an everyman. You
he's the
can't play
opposite
an
of an
everyman.
everyman. He's just like a 1 in a million man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, he's awful. Hate it.
But yeah, anyway, DC FanDome. I was kind of hyped for it beforehand, but like the more they're releasing about it, the more I'm like, I really can't, because it just seems like it essentially is just a small DC Comic Con. And like obviously we're going to be talking about the video game that they announced or later on. But they just have seemed to have a lot of stuff that they're going to announce there, because there's while we know what the next like 2 years of DC movies is, there has also been just like sheds and shed loads of rumors for the last like 2 months about like what the Flash movie is going to be like and which Batman is coming back and blah blah blah, loads and loads of rumors. So they've really like built this up to be this mega event. So like I'm expecting big things from it, because they've said loads of times they're going to be announcing things at it. So I'm really hoping it's not just one of those like, oh, you know that Batman movie, here's the panel, and you know that man, you know the next other movie Aquaman, here's the panel. It's like I
reckon to be a mix of that. Like
yeah.
I reckon they'll announce a slate as well. Like they'll do something like that, or they'll have an attempt at like doing their Batman versus Superman type thing again, where they might bring someone in to read a monologue and show a logo. And I reckon that's what they'll do. And it'll be like, listen, this is like 3 years off, but this is the idea, or somewhere where we're going to go, or something along those lines. Like, what's the odds that they try and bring out like Joker 2, or they hint at the fact they're going to do another Joker or something along those lines? Or
I'd be surprised. There hasn't been anything about
exactly
Joker.
that. Like it's just because it's done so well. And what they could probably do is that, like, I'm sure again, like we always say with the DC stuff, I'd say an intern has said something and they've just prioritized it above all. So I reckon maybe an intern might have said, oh, do you know why the Joker has so many different backgrounds that he doesn't even know which is which? So now they're going to start doing Joker films that are going to be told from different perspectives at different times, or whatever along those lines. So they're going to like basically go, we're doing another Joker film, or I'm completely speculating, but I feel like
that's ludicrous speculation. That's absolutely not going to happen.
One big piece of news that's going to come out that hasn't been leaked or anything along those lines, and Joker just seems like the obvious choice at the minute because of how successful it was last time around. That like there's definitely someone at DC heads going like, what can we do with Joker again, and how can we bring him back in some way?
Honestly though, like I really think they've got their shit together. Like I know we've been like rumoring and joking or whatever.
Know.
But like they've a new head over there, and like they've been doing well for the last couple of years in terms of movies. There's loads of speculation over the last 2 months of things that people actually legitimately want to see. Like remember, they used to be getting rumors of like stupid movies no one wanted to see. Like all the rumors over the past 2 months have been stuff that like, oh, that's actually exciting. Like I don't know how you're going to do all of them, but that's really exciting. So like I'm really holding out hope that this is going to be like what Marvel at Comic-Con was last year, where it's like, here is everything for the next 3 years and it's awesome. Because even what I kind of want from this is more a case of like them just being like, here's the next 2 years, and here's a little bit of something about what each movie is going to be. Like, I'm assuming we're going to get a Batman trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming we're going to get a Suicide Squad trailer. Maybe not even a Batman trailer, but at least a Batman teaser a little bit
Yeah,
more,
I think
because we know
we'll
they're
get
going to be
something.
there. So they're the two big movies next year. Like Black Adam hasn't even started shooting yet.
Mm-hmm.
None of the movies the following year have started shooting yet, so they can't really release anything there. But maybe they could like announce like, oh, so and so is going to be the villain for this movie, the
Yeah,
same way Marvel with a Comic-Con. Like those are the kind of things I kind of want to see. I just because like when you think of Marvel now, like you know exactly what their slate is for the next 3 years almost. Like that's almost the thing I want with DC, where it's like, here's what we're doing, here's it all in one beautiful
mm-hmm.
timeline slide, like picture or
Yeah,
something.
that's kind of what I want
Here's
more
how
than something else. Like I want a roadmap. I want that slate again because like there's loads of versions of it online, and I think I sent you a version before which was just all Slipknot related.
yeah.
But like I kind of want an ironic version of that as well that has like this is like the next couple of years. This is what's kind of happening, and even if there is gaps there by saying like, oh, there's a surprise movie here because like potentially COVID has like put like a load of plans
Yeah.
on halt and they can't probably announce something right away. But them going like there's a second follow-up film here and like there's a little bit more mystery again. Be great.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like I'm definitely excited about that. But like in terms of FanDome in general, I'm not gonna probably tune in. I think what I'm gonna do is just like get up the next day and read all the articles about what's happened because I can't sit through that many panels,
Yeah, no,
especially
I'd
if they're
say
all
what
online.
more so like what I'd say I'll probably do is just have it on the background. Like
Mm.
I'll just have it on the laptop over at the side, and like whenever there's something exciting coming up, like I'll like pop into it and actually watch that part. But
Have you
um,
seen the teaser trailer for FanDome itself?
yeah,
It is a
with all the names and stuff.
I hate it. No, it's like a coming soon thing. It's all digital and it looks like and it has like Warner Brother movies or music in the background. It's so odd and weird and it's like a 3D rendering type of thing. And then it shows like screens on the other side. So there's like a little bit from the Snyder Cut. There's a little bit from a Suicide thing or something like that, or Suicide Squad or something. And it's just the worst looking trailer I've ever seen in my entire life. I think it's an announcement trailer with the date, and it's awful.
I seen one I didn't think was too bad. But, yeah.
Is it the 3D render one, and it's like in a it's in like a stadium at the end, and it's awful.
Oh no, I haven't. I've seen the stadium one. Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that one, but the other one I thought was alright.
I
They had
don't
a
think I've
really
seen
like
the
a
other
quick
one.
one. The other one's the one that has the list of like everyone who's in attendance, so
Okay,
you
I
can
haven't
see
seen
everyone's
that
going to
one.
be there. But yeah, we did say like one of the big announcements that they already just made this weekend, that we posted about was that Rocksteady, who we have talked about for so long, they have been developing. So Rocksteady are the video game company that have created the Batman Arkham series. So them and WB Montreal have been working on two separate games for the longest time, and we kept hearing about this that there was going to be a Suicide Squad game and there was going to be a Batman game and there was going to be a Justice League game and whatever. But finally, it was announced this weekend that Rocksteady are working on a Suicide Squad game. We got a poster for it, which is just
Yeah,
simple and amazing.
awesome.
Of like the back of Superman with like a target on his head that's is the Suicide Squad logo as the target. And whatever kind of game they're making, if we get a game by the same guys that made like the best games in the Arkham franchise,
Yeah.
where you are playing the Suicide Squad hunting down the Justice League, because
Oh,
obviously we hear like one of the domain names that they registered a month ago when we were talking about the rumors was just or Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. So I don't imagine that's going to be the name because that's a terrible
no.
title for a game. But
If
like,
that's the premise or
yeah,
even vaguely related to the premise, that would be
all in.
incredible. I love how aspiring this game is going for, like where it has Superman, you play as villains and you're going after the actual hero team. And like that just sounds so good. Like, and because it's Suicide Squad and it's probably a multi-team up type thing as well, you know, something like the Avengers that's coming out that we just shit on last week, basically. like this is way more exciting. I'm just thinking that I don't know, the powers for these guys would be far more relatable, and I can
Because
see
they're ground level
yeah,
powers, most of them.
and
Like,
I
yeah,
can see Rocksteady just nailing this. Like like sure the Arkham Knight wasn't like incredible, but Arkham City is literally one of my favorite games of all time. So like these guys with a bit of time, like they're gonna nail it. So like I'm super duper excited for this. And as soon as I saw that poster, I'm just like, oh, it's even a bigger scale than I thought it was, because I thought
yeah,
they'd go ahead and do another Arkham style thing, but it's like the Suicide Squad in Arkham or breaking out of Arkham or something along those
yeah.
lines. But like because now it's so much bigger, I'm just so interested to see something with this. Like, give me a trailer, it'd be great.
And even I'm so interested. Like, they're definitely gonna have a trailer and release more image. I'm very curious if it's gonna be. Is it gonna be a case of where they release the trailer now and are like holiday 2020? Like, is it coming out this year, or is it gonna be like, here's the announcement, it's coming
Could
out
you
next year?
imagine?
Like,
It'll probably be next gen as well, which is this year coming up.
yeah,
It could be spring. I'd say like
spring
spring
next year, yeah,
2021 or something like
2021,
that.
yeah.
So coming into
Um,
June, probably May, June.
Yeah, so I cannot wait for that.
Yeah.
I have heard things like you just mentioned there that like because there's this game and there's the Batman game that WB
Hmm.
Montreal are working on, which also is 100% going to be announced at DC
Yeah,
FanDome.
100%.
They actually on the list of names of the people that are attending it, that big list they released.
Mhm.
One of the names on it, I cannot remember his name now off the top of my head, but he is like the creative director at WB Montreal. So
All
like
right.
what else is he going to be there for? Like
Yeah.
they're clearly working on a game. They've been teasing it on their social media for like a year
I'm
now.
fairly sure there's been leaks online as well. Like again,
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know how credible it is as well, but like there's been like job postings as well where things have been
yeah,
alluded to that it's definitely a Batman game. So yeah.
yeah. So like they're definitely working on that. So what I'm potentially and what like where people are kind of speculating is that the Batman game, they're both in essentially rebooted universes, so they're not in
Mhm.
Arkham essentially, but the Batman game would be like a reboot of the Batman character for a Batman like solo game like that,
Mm.
whereas the Suicide Squad game might be more of a like long-term type game in the sense of the Avengers game,
Yeah.
where it's like you can play as multiple characters and after the story the game continues and you can keep playing it and leveling up whatever. So I'm just hoping that if it is that, they do it better than what the Avengers game looks like, because it looks
And I
fairly
feel
crap.
like they probably will. Like Square Enix they're so hit and miss. You know, like some of the games are amazing, but even the ones that are amazing have massive flaws in them that are sometimes hard to get by. But like Rocksteady are just so solid. You know, like
Yeah.
pun intended, solid as a rock. Like you know, but like I can only see them nailing it as well. I'm not sure about the whole living on past the time, because like as soon as I hear that I immediately think Avengers, and I'm like I
Yeah.
haven't even played this game, but it's kind of already taxing on me where I'm just like ugh. As soon as I hear that after the fact, and it's a great idea, just if you take it out of context as well, but like I think I just need to see a trailer and maybe get an idea of who we're playing as before I get really excited. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, either way, I can't wait for both of those games to be announced at DC Fandom, which they're definitely going to be. Like if they didn't announce the Batman game now, then they might as well just never announce it. Like I think I said that a month ago, where it's like if you don't tell us, I don't want to know anymore. I'm giving up after DC Fandom. But while we're on the topic of video games, we might as well touch on the fact that the Avengers beta.
Yeah.
They had the beta release this weekend, and everybody that pre-ordered the game and whatever could go on and download the beta and play it. And they did have a lot of content in the beta.
Yeah.
And I know last week I was like, you know what, actually, when they said they were when they released the Hawkeye footage and stuff, I was like, you know what, I'm actually kind of coming around to it. I think it's going to be a bit enjoyable. I think they're going to have a good solo campaign.
Yeah.
And now that I've heard and watched people playing the beta, I didn't download it because I'm really not that
Same.
arsed to play it. I know we really should have got it and played it for the podcast. We
Yeah,
talk
it
about it, but
just
like
couldn't.
part time, come on. But all the footage that I've seen of people playing this game, it and from what people have said about the game, it is exactly what we were worrying about
Yeah.
when we talked about this like about a month ago when they first dropped the footage of it. And we were like, oh, this looks shoddy. Like the gameplay and everything looks exactly like that. I mean, it just looks like it's very generic level design. There's a
Yeah.
lot of levels where it's just like you're only doing it to level up your character, but there's
Mhm.
like 50 versions of it, but every version is just you breaking into like a factory or something,
Yeah, that's
and
so
you're just fighting,
generic looking, and
yeah,
all
and
the
you're
enemies
fighting
are generic, and
armies of robots, yeah.
it looks like a video game tie-in film. Like, do you remember the Wolverine game that came out after Wolverine
Yeah,
Origin?
yeah.
And it was actually a quite fun game, but it looks like that. Like, it looks very similar to that even now. Like, it's just not interesting at all. Like, again, like I said, I am gonna play it eventually, but it looks so glitchy. It's just all over the place, and it's so uninspired. Like, it's such a letdown, to be honest with you. But it's kind of one of those things where I feel like these team up games don't work really, because if you have so many characters and they all have these different nuances, like it doesn't give enough time for like a character to be fleshed out or a playing style to be fleshed out. So it's just so like, if they had a structured the game that it was broken up into, we'll say 12 levels or something like that, and each character basically played a level, but you only played as that character, and the whole level was designed for that character. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
maybe at select missions, like towards the end, there was this option that it teamed up, but in different parts it just suited different ones, and that's how you do it. And then you focus on like a narrative or a story rather than going disambitious, because like, well, like, listen, fair play to them for going ambitious, but it just hasn't worked, and it looks awful. And like, it's got to the point where I don't even know if I'm going to download it day one. Like, I think I'm going to prioritize a few other games that I want to play, but actually, maybe for the sake of this podcast, I will. But like, I'm not looking forward to it. And it's the same sentiment I've had the whole way through this. Like, it's just, it's so disappointing.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster for me with this game, because when I originally seen it, I was like, oh my god, it's amazing, and then we seen more gameplay and I was like, oh my god, it looks terrible. And then they announced Hawkeye and showed more gameplay and I was like, oh, actually, you know what, I'm back on board. And now I've seen
like
more gameplay
bipolar.
and people have spoken about it that have played the beta, and I'm like, oh my god, this is just it seems like an updated graphic version of like the Ultimate Alliance game, where it's
That's
just
exactly what it looks like.
It's just looter slasher. It's just go in with any character. Every character has their own unique ability, but in reality, it's just another form of like big hit, small hit. Like there's nothing, and because like even people that have played it, they've been like every level you almost go in as with like either 2 players or with 4 players. Like so, like you could go into any level as maybe Miss Marvel in one of them, or you could be Iron Man in one of them, and like there's clear things where like this one's inside of like a factory and you're Iron Man, you can't really fly around, you're in small corridors, like it just doesn't work, you know? Like, and even though you can be like, oh well, this is the one you play as this character, this is the one where you should play as this character, it's like, yeah, but I shouldn't have to, like, it should just be a case of like,
the game should
you've
do
tried
that,
to do
know that.
it's just like they've tried to do so much that they just haven't done, like we talked about it before, they're trying to do so much that they haven't specified and done one thing great. They've just done a lot of things kind of good. Like it's clearly not an Iron Man game, it's clearly not a Miss Marvel game, it's clearly not a Hulk game. It's a game where you can have a little bit of everyone, but none of it's really great. Like I've seen a lot of people that have played the beta online, and I haven't seen any of them say it's amazing. Like I've seen a lot of people being like, yeah, it's good fun, you go in, you get to play as Hulk and you get to do this and you get to do that, but none of them have been like, oh, this is so cool. Like if you're playing a beta, I know it's just a tester, I know they're learning from it, they're going to improve whatever, but like people should be coming out of this game like an Avengers game. They should be coming out absolutely hyped to play more as each one of these characters. Whereas because even as you level up the characters, like we've seen a lot of stuff where as you level up, like you can get new powers and all this kind of stuff, and you can get new looks for your character. But if you're going to do like a looter slasher like this, like I'd almost put in terms of like the amount of stuff you can get for each character, and like it's nowhere near the level of Assassin's Creed, but like even with Assassin's Creed, as you level up things, like it looks different. Like you level up a certain gear piece on your wrist and it looks different on your wrist, you know? Whereas with this, like it's just, you can unlock like outfits for each one of them or looks for each one of them. Whereas all the little like
you can make your Hulk look pretty in like yellow shorts,
exactly,
or shorts, or
But then like I'm not arsed leveling up a power stat like by 1 point over and over again if I'm not going to see any difference really, and if it's just going to be like, oh, go in and do this level just so you can level him up by 2 for like, I just it's the kind of game that I'm instantly going to lose interest in unless it's got like a really, really good narrative to push me forward.
Like the story is going to be the thing that gets me, and like this could be a game where I get into it, and if it does become the progression thing where I just need to grind to get to the next part so I can listen to the story has to be good, or I'm just going to lose complete focus and end up watching a YouTube video that explains it. You know what I mean? It's going to be one of those type of ones, because I'm too old to just like put so much time into doing something so mindless and dull and awful.
I'm too old. How old do you think you are?
Well, I think we're too old because, you know,
Merton Riggs over here. I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah, I'm like 1 day away from retirement, and I'm not playing Avengers.
This podcast has been too testing on you, huh?
I'll go back and I'll play The Witcher 3 again for the 16th time.
Yeah, and you'd go back and happily play like 60 hours of that
again.
Oh,
easy. I'd go back like every time I finish it, I give myself 4 months, and I'm like, I could definitely go back and just play that game again. So,
crazy.
I'm more excited to play it than I am the Avengers. Anyway, listen.
Yeah. Well, one extra thing that they did announce with the Avengers game is that they have announced that so we know that Hawkeye is going to be a post-game DLC character, but their second post-game DLC character is Spider-Man. Not Spider-Man from Insomniac Spider-Man. So
not the good Spider-Man.
Not the good Spider-Man. They're doing their own version of Spider-Man, which, you know, good on them, like for taking their own version. Having two of them in 2 separate video games, like, I don't want to compare them, but I'm going to compare them when I play it. 100%. And I just know for a fact he's not going to feel as good.
No.
Based on how all the rest of the characters are.
Those corridors, that's going to be awful. So it's going to be the same thing. Big kick, small kick. He might stick to the walls, but then there's nothing inspired there. But like
He
that'll be
might
it.
stick to the wall.
He'll stick to the walls and the ceiling. It'll be like those old. Do you remember Spider-Man 2? Do you remember those
Where you're just
Imperial
running
level?
normally upside down.
Yeah, where he's upside down on the roof and stuff like that. There'll be bits of it, and he might be able to stealth, and like that'll be the extent of it, and it's going to be just boring and awful. And like, listen, I'm shitting on this game, and I've literally not played a second of it. But like,
Yeah.
ugh.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see like what their take on it is. Like
Mhm.
again, you can't help but compare it, but like based on the costumes of most of the characters, it's probably not going to be as cool as the
No.
Insomniac one. And obviously we're going to have the Miles Morales Spider-Man game coming out this side of Christmas as well. So like you're going to have a really good version of Spider-Man roughly around the same time when a lot of people are playing this Spider-Man. So again, that'll be kind of interesting to see two of them side by side. But he is also a PS4 exclusive, which people online are very, very upset about.
Oh yeah, just
Understandably so, I guess.
Yeah,
Like I get
definitely.
it's a business call. Like it's a good business call for Sony because it is legitimately going to make people buy, especially now when it's coming like next gen kind of time.
Yeah.
And they've just announced today, I think, that there is no Xbox exclusive characters coming to it. So like Xbox fans are clearly remarkably pissed off because they already missed out on a class Spider-Man game, and now when there's another version of Spider-Man coming, they're also missing out on that. And I seen we put a post up about it, and someone posted underneath it. I can't remember the guy's tag now, but that he wanted Batman games. I know we talked about it to become like Xbox exclusives. And I would 100% buy an Xbox if they did, but I can't see that happening. So unfortunately, Xbox fans, you just can't play Spider-Man.
Got to suck it up again and like not play your what do you call it, God of War, or not your Last of Us, or your oh my god, what samurai game am I playing right now?
Ghost of Tsushima.
Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
Like imagine, like again, like I don't like shitting on that because I do think it's a weird business decision. It's like I'd rather all games be available on all consoles and then just pick the best console. But like, you know, being an Xbox gamer for this generation, you've just missed out on so much gold. Like it's kind of sad, to be honest with you. But like
but on the plus side,
if the shoe was on the other foot, I would have bought an Xbox. But like, listen,
yeah, I was going to say on the plus side, they do have this wicked looking Halo game coming out.
Have you seen a screenshot of like the monkey or something?
It's so
like
unfortunate that it does not look good. I was really hoping it was going to be like a really great Halo game.
No.
Even though I've never played any of the Halo games, but if they release like a new gen one that was class, like at least I love the fact that like Sony have been I love the fact that Sony have been dominating, but I feel like for them to keep dominating, they need competition too. So like
it's true.
You want Xbox to really come out and have a few good games at the same time. But anyway, moving on from the gaming news, before we get on to our TV shows that we want to talk about, one of my favorite men alive right now is Monsieur Keanu Reeves. And one of my favorite characters recently has been the Baba Yaga, John Wick himself. We talked about him in Survive. He was on Survive. No, not the Babadook, the Baba Yaga, you big idiot. But they have just announced last week that they are hoping to, Lionsgate are hoping to start shooting John Wick 4 early 2021 when Keanu is free again, and their plan is to shoot 4 and 5 back to back, which is great because it means less release window between the two movies. They'll probably, if they shoot them back to back, I'm assuming like late 2021, maybe 2022 for a release date for the fourth, and then probably a year later we'll get the fifth one. But John Wick is going nowhere anytime soon. Like they are just, I wouldn't even say milking them because they haven't done a bad one yet. Like the third one has probably been one of the best ones.
Like the quality hasn't dipped at all. So like I do reckon by the time a fifth movie comes out, the sheen will come off because it'll be like, how far do you take this or how far can it go? Like it's going to have to get to a point where, you know, they give it a break or something along those lines, or they become a bit of a parody of themselves, or they have to introduce someone else. Like, you know, the overall concept has to get tired at some stage, and 5 films is enough time for the concept to get tired, even if it is Keanu Reeves.
Well, now, Lorcan, I would have you know that Fast and Furious 5 is probably the best Fast and Furious movie. So
it turned into a parody of itself as well, and plus it had 2 poor movies right in front of it as well. And like the reason Fast and Furious done so well around the 5th onwards is because it turned into something different. So like, you know, like John Wick needs, like something needs to change by the time the 5th movie comes out. Like I reckon they could probably do the next 2 films and it'd be fresh. But the 6th one, nah, like like you can't do it. Plus, Keanu
Oh,
is 55, so by the
and
time
he
like
is
this comes
still
out,
kicking ass.
oh, he's like he's fit for it. Like like his training regime for this is insane. Like, have you seen him do it? And then I know
Yeah,
for 3 they got Halle Berry to do it as well. Like,
yeah,
and that
yeah.
was only
Oh,
a
but
year
have you
ago.
seen John Wick 3?
Have I?
You haven't seen it. They're the
I
scenes with him
haven't.
and Halle
No, I
Berry with
haven't.
the
I haven't.
dogs
Yeah.
are class. Like they're so good. It's kind of it's the thing with John Wick is that every I was gonna say every season, every movie,
It
it
kind of
just
is at
like
this stage.
yeah, it just steps up in terms because every movie you're like, how can they step up from that scene in the previous one? Like, what's the new thing in this going to be? And then all of a sudden they brought like fighting dogs into the last one. Not literally like they didn't get up and start punching people, like attack dogs that were like super well trained and just like the mixture of gun fu with like sending attack dogs on certain people. It was just like it's like watching an amazing video game. Like if a video game movie there's a shooter ever wants to be cool, like look at John Wick and make a movie like that. Like don't make a video game movie, make it that because that's what a video game like playing a video game feels like watching a John Wick movie. He's that much of a just god level character. Like John Wick is basically when you've like leveled up every single gun and you're like platinum the game and you go back to level 1 like, and just ruin people in it. That's what watching a John Wick movie is like, and it's just the best.
Yeah.
It'll
be good.
Yeah, it'll be great. Moving on to the MCU. Everybody's most anticipated movie of it's actually phase 5 technically, because I don't think it's counted as phase 4. But Captain Marvel 2, and that's harsh because I didn't like the first one, but I actually am looking forward to the second one. They just need to get Brie Larson to like cut the shit. But they have announced
and have
the
a better
director.
story probably as well, just like a slightly better story.
Better story, better writing, all that stuff. They have announced the director for Captain Marvel 2, which is Nia DaCosta, which is I'm hoping it's going to be awesome because she's directing or she has directed the upcoming Candyman reboot of the film, and it looks really, really cool. Actually, it's not. Is it a reboot or a sequel?
It's a reboot, I think. I'm pretty sure it's a reboot. Yeah. It's too spooky for me to even.
Too spooky for Lorcan. But the trailers for it look awesome. They look really, really cool. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what she can do with Captain Marvel. And she's also the first African American female director they've brought into the MCU, which is awesome.
And she's quite young, isn't she? She's
like
a
very young director.
Yeah, like that's incredible. She's breaking all the records around her. So I really hope she does well in this. Like, I just think Captain Marvel needs a bit of a shake up. Like the first one just wasn't great, and she's been mismatched now in the film she's been in because she's been too overpowered for the end of the last kind of arc of things as well. So like there just needs to be something there because Brie Larson's a great actress as well. So I really hope they nail it because I want that character to be great. And I feel like if she gets a second film, although saying that Thor second film was quite bad as well, and then he came into his own eventually. But I reckon just the goodwill for Captain Marvel isn't the same as it was for Thor, unfortunately. So like I just really hope she nails it and kind of puts everything to sleep really at this stage and just kind of leads the team moving forward, or
because that's she's clearly originally was the plan to be like one of the leaders of the group coming into it. So like I really am hoping that they can kind of like get her back on track in this next movie. Where they go with it, I don't know, because she can't be anywhere near Earth because she's just too godly powerful. So like I hope they go off on some kind of space adventure.
I reckon it'll be space. I reckon it'll be looking into the past of the Kree or something along those lines, and it'll be like maybe, and like that would be fantastic. I'd love that, and I'd love her to. I suppose she was so stoic and kind of straight.
Give her a bit of personality.
Just get personality into it, and like maybe have her hang around like a different crew of like the Ravengers or something like that, or like have her mix with people who are breaking the law and like kind of bring her a little bit down to earth and like loosen up a little bit. But I just think that character is in need of it as well because again, fantastic actor, and when it comes to like comedy, she can nail it as well. So like I really hope it works out.
Yeah, and just it's yet another director that's coming from like a horror background to come and start directing like superhero films. I love the fact that like a lot of superhero films now, in particular Marvel, seem to be just getting like nice, like good little indie directors, or like directors that like start off being indie directors and then like one like a big kind of horror-ish movie, or big like like an indie movie that really pops, and they go and get those directors
Yeah,
because
like a
like
Taika Waititi or something along
yeah,
those lines.
because like
Or
clearly all the
James
Marvel
Gunn.
movies have like the VFX and the action. Some like they have that down in the background. Like they just I'm sure with the directors it's like, hey, you just plan the act, like you tell us when you want action scenes to be and roughly what you want to happen, and then our like team will put that
Yeah.
together for you. Because you can see in certain movies like a lot of the action has clearly got the same kind of sheen to it.
Yeah.
Now when it's done well, Captain America Winter Soldier style, I'm all for it. But then there are other movies like the Guardians movies are great, but a lot of their action is like
Yeah,
bland enough kind
I
of
wouldn't
space
have
stuff.
said the action is even the biggest part of that film as well. And like, it's totally fine
Yeah.
if that's the case. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you're totally right. Like, I think getting these young, up and coming directors and getting them on these projects as well, because they can shine. Because more often than not, if you go with like some of the older directors, all you get is their style, their take on things, and you know, I suppose it's just a symbiotic relationship because these directors are probably happy to be brought into the conversation, you know,
Yeah.
bring up their fame as well. But at the same time, they're not going to be able to bully around the studio. And there's like a happy medium of someone's tone and style that's good onto it, but also the overall arc and message of what the whole phase is kind of runs through it in a seamless way.
Yeah.
So it can be good, you know. So
Class. Looking forward to that. Looking, we have talked many a time about a sports documentary and how much we love a sports documentary.
I love a good sports documentary.
Love a good sports documentary, especially when it's about players that you also love and about a sport that you also love to watch. So David Beckham, probably one of the most famous men alive, and also one of the best looking men alive.
Oh yeah,
good
totally,
lord,
totally. Oof.
He is
Swoon.
apparently working. Did you just say swoon?
Swoon.
He is apparently looking for a studio to work with him on filming a documentary series about his life. Apparently he has spoke with
For anyone
Netflix.
else to be desperate, but like for Beckham, it's a total business opportunity.
yeah. Anyone else to be like, oh, look at this guy trying to get a film out about himself. Whereas at Beckham, it's like, yeah, please, I want to see
people are
that.
like, oh, I'd love to see that. Someone,
and he's going to make millions from it. So apparently he has spoke with Netflix and Amazon. I think Netflix currently are the front runners for it. But the really cool, like I'd love this to happen. Apparently he was kind of turned on to the idea after and inspired by watching The Last Dance, which is like this basically a huge puff piece from Michael Jordan. But it does see the other side, which is good. It's absolutely class. But this is apparently going to be a movie, so it's not going to be as fleshed out. It's not going to go through his career, but it does say, or at least what the speculation was that it was going to focus on his life. Not the speculation, sorry. The report said that it was going to focus on his life after football, more so on like his career since then, and like setting up. He's obviously set up Inter Miami, which is his new football team over in the US in the MLS. So like, yeah, I do want to see that, and I'd love to see more behind the scenes about his life because he's such an interesting dude. But I also, if he's doing a movie about his life, like he better, like what I'm more interested in is looking at like a retrospective of his career as a player.
That's what I'd rather, like, you know, like Beckham has been interesting certainly since he's retired, like in his business ventures he's gone on and what he's done has been fantastic. But like I'm way more interested in, like, you know, breaking up the phases, like have his early phase breaking into the Man United team, becoming, you know, Mr. England, becoming the biggest superstar in the world and a brand icon, and then falling out with one of the biggest managers in the world to the point where there was a physical altercation where, you know, Alex Ferguson threw a boot at his face and then kicked him out of the squad to then go to the Galacticos, you know, generation in Real Madrid and just be this absolute icon, and then take a complete like left turn and be one of the first and biggest football players to go to the US, and then like go to Italy and then go to France, and, you know, just have this incredible career, but still being a celebrity and, you know, having a celebrity wife and celebrity kids. And, you know, like, it's just so interesting. Like Beckham, no one's going to sit there and say Beckham's even top 5 greatest player of all time, not even top 10, but he's one of the most, if not the most iconic football player of all time. So like, and it's mainly for off the kind of field things as well, and just who he is and his persona. So I'm way more interested to see how that kind of went, because like he was never the best player in any of his teams bar LA Galaxy, but he was always the most iconic and the most well-known player, which is just so interesting. So I'd love to see that dynamic, and it's kind of unfortunate that it's not going to be like a part documentary breaking down each individual part. I much would have rathered that, and I'd love to hear what some of his teammates have to say about Beckham, because
Yeah.
the class of '92 in Manchester, I'm sure they have nothing but good things to say about him. But I wonder, going into that Madrid team with Ronaldo up front and Zidane and Vigo and Raul and all these incredible players, like, who were better than Beckham, I wonder how they look at him and rate him almost being there as being this English player in Spain. And like that, it'd just be so interesting, and I'd love to know that and know more about the dynamics. But
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Everything you said, like, totally agree with. I would literally love to see a shot for shot, like, told the same way The Last Dance was. Like, break down his career, show us, like, his coach's perspective, his manager's perspective, his players, his perspective. Like, I'd love to hear him. I know we've seen it, like, little interviews here and there, but I'd love, like, a 20-minute segment just talking about him and Alex Ferguson and their relationship, and then how the relationship, like, broke down and what happened, and, like, what led to the moment where he threw a football boot at him in a changing room. Like, this is the kind of stuff. And even, like, get some of the, like, perspective of, like, the other players, like you said, that were there, and, like, how did they see it? Like, that would just be, like, prime TV in terms of, like, sports documentaries.
Yeah, massively agree. And, like, like England's a big part of it as well, that was never touched on. Like, obviously, like, him getting sent off in the World Cup, and people hanging effigies of him and burning them, and, different things. It's just so interesting. And then, like, the comparison between him and Michael Jordan. Like, Michael Jordan is just this. He's just an asshole, and he has a giant ego as well. But, like, someone like Beckham, who's a genuinely lovely and humble person, like, say if you listen to his interviews, he is super humble for, like, the success he's had in his career and who he is as a person. So it's just a different take on things. And I'm actually, like, this is the first I'm hearing that it's not a documentary, and it's not mainly going to focus on his playing career. But I'm hoping that if he does this, that it nearly comes off the back by people giving feedback going, I'd rather see something about your playing career, and then us getting that off the back of it. But I want to see more sports documentaries. I want to see more football ones. I want to see a Lance Armstrong version of The Last Dance.
Yeah.
So I put one up that was a 2-parter, but I want more of this, you know what I mean? I like the precedent that was being set.
Yeah. Even in saying that, like, I'm hoping that, like, whenever he goes into, like, production on it, that, like, whatever studio is doing it, that, like, when Bex is like, okay, so let's start from, like, the moment I retire, and they're just like, well, what if we start from the moment you started playing football? What if we took it from there, and then maybe for the last 20 minutes we focus on your life after football? Because, like, if I know he's the kind of guy that everyone would just agree with. Like, if he's like, I want to do this, like, people just be, oh my God, Mr. Beckham, yes, I'll do whatever you want. But, like, I'd really love for someone to legitimately just be like, you know what, that's cool, but this would be way better.
But it's the least it's the least, like I know he set up an MLS team, but, like, I know that journey. The journey was him just going around finding paperwork and finding a city he could build a team in. And then he had issues with planning permission for a stadium in Miami. And that's the story. You know what I mean? And, like, that's it. And it's the least interesting thing about his, like, entire career or his entire life so far. So, like, I just know.
And that's the thing, like, social media has been huge since then. So, like, we've clearly just been following along with that story anyway.
Oh, have it?
Like, I don't need to see.
I know the crack.
Yeah, I know the crack. I don't need to see behind the scenes of the meeting you had with the owner or whatever. Like, just
exactly. Or, like, there's a skit that, like, they've done a statue of him as well, and it was like a fake statue, and it's just awful. And, like, that's the gist of it.
So here's hoping it's actually focusing on his career. And if they do it, like, that'll be like the Last Dance level of success for whatever streaming service comes out with it, because people would flood to watch it.
But, like, think about it. Like, even people who didn't know about football, look at that thumbnail. It'd be a picture of Beckham, and there'd be a lot of people going, "What is this?"
Yeah, who is this guy?
Like, oh my God, just getting flustered looking. It's like, what's happening here?
I'll never forget the time at the royal wedding when he rocked up looking like God himself.
Why would you, everyone? Like, imagine being like Prince Harry or Prince William and invite him to a wedding. Like, why would you invite him? Like, you know, like there's definitely that envy when it comes to brides and stuff like that. But, like, if Beckham showed up to your wedding, no one gives a fuck about you. They're just like, oh my God, look at this man. Like, even the bride was probably like, I can't believe you invited David fucking Beckham today. Like, he'll be in more photos than me, basically.
Anyway, it's gas. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the main topic of the week. So we are talking about our most
You'll get there. You'll get there eventually.
Blah, blah, blah. We're talking about the upcoming TV shows and series that are currently in development that we are most excited for. Most of these series that we're talking about are shows that are, like, either not in development yet, like kind of been announced that they're going to be starting the development, or they're like mid development now. So none of these shows you would have seen like trailers for or anything yet. So you may not have even heard of them, which is exciting. And with some of them, a lot of the big ones you probably will have. But we're going to be running through them, kind of going through the streaming services basically, because that's essentially where all like the best TV is coming from now. So we'll start going through the streaming services and just hitting on like the major series that they have, and which ones we're really excited for. But it is, I know we've been saying it for the last couple of years, but it is just such a good time to be like a TV and film nerd, and like even just geek culture nerd in general, because there's just so much coming out, which is awesome. And as always, I'm very curious to see, like when we talk about this now, I'm curious to like in 2 years time, I'd love to re-listen to this episode and just be like,
which turned out well, or which even got made in the end.
Exactly, which was actually developed. So we'll start with Disney Plus, because that's kind of the least we know about at the minute. We're not going to touch on the Marvel stuff, because we're going to be touching on the upcoming phases in Marvel TV and stuff in the future. So they've loads of TV shows, but we're not going to be touching them right now. We're just going to be looking at the Star Wars stuff, because outside of that, none of their big series having development have really been announced, or that we don't really know what else.
There'll probably be another High School Musical season or something like that, but like outside of that,
of course. But the main series that we know are coming from Disney Plus that we're excited for are, we obviously have the Obi-Wan Kenobi series that is coming. How long were you planning that one?
Like ages.
Oh, nice, solid timing. Nice. So we have the Obi-Wan Kenobi series with Ewan McGregor's coming back. We have the Cassian Andor series with Cassian Andor, that's gonna annoy me. I love that dude too. With Cassian Andor series coming from, that's also, they were both due to be out next year, but I'm assuming due to filming and everything, that is not going to be the case. And we also have the unannounced, or the untitled
Diego Luna.
That's the guy. What a legend. Sorry, Diego Luna in Cassian Andor, and we have Leslie Headland's Untitled Star Wars series that she's working on, which we talked about a while ago. So there's 3 Star Wars series that we officially know are in development. Whether or not there's rumors that there are other stuff in development, but the obviously Star Wars Celebration this year was cancelled. They're not having another Star Wars Celebration for 2 years, so there mustn't have been any major announcements they were going to make. Otherwise, they would have done something sooner. So I'm imagining for now, at least for like the next 2 years, they're going to be the 2 main series, that along with The Mandalorian obviously coming back. But in terms of series that are in development, those are the 2 main ones, or 3 main ones that we would have with Disney Plus. Are any of them that you're like really excited for?
Obi-Wan, like Cassian Andor. I've said my piece on it before. Like, I'm just not that excited. I will be when it comes out, but like Obi-Wan, I can't wait. Like, it's something we've been crying out for a long time, and I'm just so interested to see what they do with that series. Just it's going to be incredible. Like, I'm really, really looking forward to it. I've not really to add to it, really, because like there's nothing we really know about it other than Ewan McGregor's there. Probably be set during the time on Tatooine as well, and kind of him protecting young Luke, and how that looks, and he's probably going to chop down a couple of sand people around that time as well. Maybe might end with like the whole Darth Maul stuff, like in the same way it's done with Rebels, but like in between, what happens, what does he get up to, does he have a secret baby, all this sort of stuff. But yeah, like I'm just super excited. Like, I kept on thinking I have Star Wars fatigue, but then as soon as I hear about these things coming up, I'm like, oh, I really can't wait for this. So yeah.
So yeah, they're the main ones, like you said, coming from Disney Plus. Obviously, there is like there was meant to be Falcon and Winter Soldier was meant to come out this year. We know that they have the Hawkeye series, the Loki series, the Scarlet Witch series,
the What If,
WandaVision, the What If series, and they have then the 3 other Marvel series that are coming out after that. They haven't put dates on yet, which is Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, and Moon Knight. And out of them, Moon Knight easily for me. Totally. I cannot wait for. But yeah, we'll be talking about them in a bit more detail in a different episode, so we will get back to that. But for Disney Plus, whenever they finally do get back into production, I'm looking forward to having like we'll say every 3 months, like a good series come out, be it Marvel, be it Star Wars. Like when that actually hits full tempo, like they're just going to be pumping like the home for like Star Wars and Marvel, and it's going to be great. So I can't wait for that. Netflix for me actually is a really exciting one, because we're only really going to be talking about like the major stuff, but obviously Netflix drops shit like
constantly.
Every 2 weeks they've got something class that you didn't even know was in development. So we're only going to be talking about like kind of the major, mostly kind of like genre related stuff. And they've been doing some really interesting stuff, because obviously like Marvel, Star Wars has like Disney has like Star Wars and it has Marvel. which are like huge properties in terms of comic books and like genre properties they can do. HBO obviously has DC, so they've just got loads of stuff there. They've got Harry Potter and Pirates of the Caribbean, all that kind of stuff. So they have these huge franchises. Sorry, Pirates is a bit Disney, but the other studios have these huge franchises, whereas Netflix never really had their own franchise. They were always like using other people's properties, whereas now they've been buying up like these little genre properties that have like huge fan bases and just turning them into like the big deal. So like for the first one that we have here that we're talking about is the Witcher prequel series that was announced about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So the Witcher Blood Origins. We talked about it on the show.
Yeah.
Are you said you were like pumped for this, right?
Oh, like massively, because I don't know much about this kind of starting part of the universe as well. Like obviously the elves and all, it's super exciting. If you play the games, there's like hints to like the interdimensional kind of shift between them. You know, the elves, kind of some of them going off and being part of the Wild Hunt. You know, like there's just interesting things that are happening there. And then, you know, the whole thing about the Witchers, and they're just mutated versions of humans that take like this trial essentially as well and get injected with mutagens, and it can kill people. It's just, I wonder how that started, you know, because obviously there's dangers out there and the Witchers came about to help that, but like how that process started, maybe what the world looked like way back then. And, you know, it'd just be super interesting to kind of see and live in that universe as well. But yeah, like listen, it'll be good. I'm probably still more excited about the actual ongoing Witcher series though, because I like the character of Geralt, but like this is still super exciting.
Yeah. Another series that they have in development, which you found out about, about maybe early this year or end of last year, which hopefully is going to be huge when it comes out, but it's The Sandman. So this is a property that has been in development for just so long, like legitimately so long, and they've just released an audiobook. Is it a podcast or is it?
I think it's an audiobook. I think it's an
it's an actual audiobook on Sandman, and the cast that they had for that is just like absolutely amazing. I haven't listened to it yet, but I do have it in my Audible library, so I'm really, really mad to listen to it when I get the chance. But like the potential for what this series could be is huge. Like this could be massive.
I read the comic a while ago as well, or read kind of a little bit into the comic as well. It can get taxing, like a lot of those kind of comics as well. Like they're by Neil. It's Neil Gaiman, isn't it?
Neil Gaiman,
yeah. Like all Neil Gaiman stuff, it just gets taxing after a while. Like there's just so much happening, and I don't particularly love the art style that much, but I love the concept. I love the world. I love how strange and weird it is, and I think it could lend itself really well to, you know, a series, as long as they put a shocking amount of money into this. Because if you half-ass this, it'll look like, you know, those early stages of like Supernatural or even Smallville as well, where you just have these versions of characters that just are crap. But yeah, like this could be incredible, and like they take a good bit of time, do a couple of different arcs, like in just nice ways, maybe introduce actual Lucifer, so like not the Lucifer that's on TV at the minute, like bring him in as well would be super interesting as well, and bring in Michael. Yeah, it'll just be awesome. I think this is like a big one, but it totally comes down to who does it and what money goes into it, and you know, that type of thing. But it'll be awesome.
Could be. Hopefully it will be. Another huge property that they have coming out is their live action adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
This is like my most anticipated thing ever.
Really?
Yeah, I cannot wait for this. Like with all the hype, because Avatar obviously came back out now last month for everyone in America. It's kind of already been on the platform for a while in Ireland and the UK, but like just with everyone talking about it, and like more stuff kind of coming up on like on YouTube or on Reddit or on Instagram as well, where people are like falling back in love with the show, like it has got me to reminisce about the show again, and I'm considering going back to watch it again for like the third time. But like the more I think about it, the way this world is built and everything, it's just so incredible. And for someone to actually make a good go at this as well, and like I keep on thinking that it can't be fucked up, but then I remember the film was fucked up as well. And I can't believe they've done that, because it seems like the concept is so strong. Like, you know, it's kind of like a Harry Potter universe that when you look into it, a lot of things are already thought through, and it works out really well. And the world building is just so incredible that it just works. So like I'm really looking forward to this, and like I think this will nail it. And I kind of hope it's not just like a blow by blow exact copy of the animated series. Like I hope they spend more time in certain locations and, you know, flesh their characters a little bit more again. Like and they'll probably have to, because the episode structures will be different. Like they won't be able to do your whatever 20-minute episodes or along those lines. They'll have to do the 40 or 50 and try and either bring everything into one or like spread it out even further. So like yeah, it'll just be super interesting to see what they do. Have you got around to watching it yet? Because if you haven't, you should.
I still haven't got around to watching it, and I honest to God have been
Yeah.
like trying to find the time. I feel like I need a day where I need to sit down and watch multiple, because if I sit down and watch one, I'm not going to get into it.
No, if you pick a day and you watch, I'd say you could watch the whole first season in a day. I'd say you could, like, say if you put it on, because it'll catch you after a couple of episodes, and I'd say you'll want to finish it. And once you do that, it's good. But the first season is a little bit childish because like they obviously had to sell it to Nick, and then after like halfway through that season, it starts to be a bit more mature. But then as soon as it gets on to like the later episodes, it definitely becomes a lot more mature in terms of its storytelling, the direction
Yeah.
it goes. Like it's definitely made for an older audience, and it's just so good. Like
Yeah, and the exciting thing about this is that it is the
Mhm.
creative team behind the actual animated series
Yeah.
that's working on this as well. So this is the thing I love about Netflix, is that Netflix don't, like, they're not like most studios where,
Mhm.
at least what most studios used to be, where like they buy the property and then they just get their like random
Mhm.
like big wigs in Hollywood, like a random hot director to come in and like do it or whatever.
Yeah.
Like what they usually do
Like
is
what
they
they
buy the
did do,
property.
they got M Night Shyamalan in because they had big
Come
ass
on, no.
film.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. No, yeah, exactly what they're doing to the movie.
mm,
Whereas like what they're generally doing, like they bought the rights to Net or to Witcher, but like they had the
mhm,
Witcher like creators involved in creating the series. They bought
mhm,
the rights to like Miller World, and like Mark Millar himself is going to be involved. Like
mhm,
they're, and like the Avatar: The Last Airbender, like their
mhm,
creative team are going to be involved in it. So they're keeping the creators of the original stuff involved as well. So it's not just like,
mhm.
then even like it's almost the safest bet, because at least then if it sucks,
Yeah.
it's like, well, we tried, we got the original people here, so
It's
you can
also
blame them for
common
it.
sense as well, because like the hardcore fans are immediately going to go off the fact that like the creators weren't involved and that's why it sucked.
Yeah.
But at least if you have that initial touch point, and who else knows the world better than the people who built it? So like
Mm.
it's and like the funny thing I found out as well is like Dave Filoni as well was a part of the team as well that brought Avatar to life, which is hilarious as well. Like with all the different like stuff he's been involved in,
Yeah.
it would be excellent if you could get him out of the Disney circle to kind of feature in this as well. It'd
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
excellent because he just has such a sure hand that I'd love
Mm.
to see him, like, I don't know, control parts of this.
Yeah. And then like I just mentioned, another property that Netflix have bought recently is Miller World, or Millar World, whichever way you want to say it. Which is basically Mark Millar. He, like, very famous comic creator, has done some like amazing comics, worked for
Yeah.
both Marvel and DC in the past, but eventually went out on his own with Image, and then created like his own line of comics. And the way he writes comics is basically like a movie script. Like he
Yeah.
basically tells stories in a comic that are a bit like, it's mostly all kind of graphic novel based, in the sense that it's all like 6 issue stories or 10 issue stories or whatever. Like it's not a big like 50 issues in a story or whatever. They're all kind of small one and done stories, or like it's a volume and then like they'll have volume 2 with 6 more issues or whatever. So they're really cool stories, really interesting, really easy to adapt to the screen, most of them, in the
Mhm.
sense that like they're just a kind of a simple story that you can kind of get your head. Well, they're some crazy stories and crazy ideas, but like most of them, it's easier to adapt this than like take a character who's had 10 years or 20 years of
Yeah.
history and stuff behind them. So we talked about it originally when they bought the rights to it, with the comic stories we would like to see.
Yeah.
None of the ones I have mentioned have been have been put into development yet, but one that they are working on, which is the closest to being made yet, is Jupiter's Legacy, which
Yeah.
I'm almost certain they had finished production on it by the time lockdown came around. So I would imagine this is gonna either drop between now and the end of the year, if they can get post production done, or very early next year, because this is very, very, like, this is very close to being finished. But they're working on that one. American Jesus, I think, is the next series that they have in development, which I think you read both of those.
Yeah, I'd like, as soon as this was announced, I went through and read like a lot of his stuff. Like the only one
Mm,
I did really read was Hook
yeah,
and the Magic Order are like the only ones I didn't read really.
yeah.
But
I think the Magic Order, actually, it wasn't even like they were right. He was writing the Magic Order, I
oh, there
feel
you
like,
go.
as
As
this was
Yeah,
announced.
fair enough.
Because there was definitely one or two that he hadn't even wrote yet, but he was like, "Oh, this is going to be one of our
Mm.
series," but I'm also currently writing it as a comic, so it hadn't come out yet. Maybe I'm wrong about the Magic Order, but I know there was one, because if you go into like the actual stories about this, like he's got
Yeah.
about 10 different properties in development on Netflix at the minute, between movies and TV shows. But Jupiter's Legacy, like I said, is the closest one to being finished. Then American Jesus, and I think it's the Magic Order is next, but that one's nowhere near.
Mm.
That hasn't started development yet, and so I think it's still well a ways yet. But based on what I know of Jupiter's Legacy, like I said, I haven't read that yet. I
Mm.
know you have, but I'm very, very excited for that to come out.
Yeah, totally. And like, there's other properties that we would have rathered as well. Like, like Jupiter's Legacy is great and all, but like, again, I think it needs a giant budget for it to work as well. And, there's a lot of shows out there that are kind of similar at the minute. Like The Boys is out there as well at the minute. And like, both myself and yourself, I think we're hoping for like Nemesis or something like that to come out as well, or even Superior, which would have worked out really well. There's another one I watched as well that I think you told me about as well, which was Reborn. And I thought that was really interesting as well. They could have definitely done it.
Was it? Yeah, was it Reborn?
Reborn. It was the one with the old woman, and she gets reborn in a fantasy land, and she has to go and kind of like save her father as well. And she meets all these different people in her old life as well, who are in the nursing home or something along those lines. I can't remember it because I read it.
Oh, yes.
And it was excellent. And it kind of had those things where the story worked really well, and then they done like hard cuts to like 30 years later. I'm like, why did you do that? Like, there was a great story about even you just getting from that place to there and the hijinks that could have happened, and I thought that would work really well as like a show. But like Jupiter's Legacy could be great, but like I said before, it'll be like a little bit like The Boys, not so much like Umbrella Academy. But yeah, it's probably not the one I would have went with right away. I would have went with something else that would have like going with Nemesis would have just made so much more sense, I thought. But like, listen, maybe they were afraid of a lawsuit or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he is very Batman like.
He is. He's quite Batman like. It's like, oh, he can't be Batman, he's a murderer and he wears white.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's just the direct opposite of Batman. So yeah, they're some of the main ones coming with Netflix. They also have the rights, and I think they're working on a Resident Evil series as well.
That'll be fun. I'd like
which would be really cool. We haven't heard much more about it now since we found out that they were working on it. And they also recently bought the rights to the Chronicles of Narnia since they've left Disney. So they've said that they are working on both like movies and series based on this property. And there's just like so many books and so much to this story in terms of the Chronicles of Narnia. Like, they could do something seriously big in terms of like fantasy, like in terms of both series and movies. And if they start like tying them together and stuff, like they're making smart moves, Netflix, in terms of like making their own franchises that you have to go to Netflix for, rather than like the general Marvel, DC, Star Wars kind of stuff. So I'm really looking forward to the next couple of years to see how this kind of keeps going, and two other things. They're obviously, we've talked about it before, that they're really getting into like the anime game as well over the last couple of years. And obviously they have the Splinter Cell anime that's coming, and Cyberpunk 2077 anime, which were announced this year. So for anime fans, there's plenty.
And then also the Pacific Rim anime as well.
Oh yeah, they're doing Pacific Rim anime too. And they just had it's not really an anime, it's kind of anime style, the Transformers
oh yeah, the Rooster Teeth one.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I don't think I watched. No, I didn't watch it as well. But I was never a fan of the animated versions of the Transformers anyway. But like it used to be on, and I'd watch it, but like I never loved it. It just never grabbed me. And then when the first film came out as well, I think I went back and watched some of it, and it kind of lost its sheen. So I think for a lot of people, it's more nostalgia bait. So like, even seeing the trailers for this, I'm like, it doesn't really have me hooked.
Yeah, it's funny actually, because you say that. I watched the trailer and this looks amazing, but I still haven't.
There you go. Like, it's totally nostalgia, I think.
Yeah. Cool. Moving on now from Netflix to HBO and HBO Max. So obviously HBO is like the big dog in terms of like premiere television. Like, they don't release half as much as some of the others, but like when they release something big, like it's generally amazing. So in terms of HBO, before we get to the HBO Max stuff, which has been a lot of stuff announced, and we really don't know if it's going to be good or not, because you don't know what the quality is going to be like on HBO Max. But in terms of like HBO themselves, which we know is going to be super quality, we have so much so been talking about what the next Game of Thrones is going to be for like the last like literally 5 or 6 years. Since even before Game of Thrones was scheduled to end, people are like, what's going to be the next Game of Thrones? Like, every fantasy show that was announced was going to be quote unquote the next Game of Thrones. But it turns out the actual next Game of Thrones is going to be Game of Thrones. So we obviously know they were working on a prequel series that got cancelled, but now the series that they are officially working on that we know about is Game of Thrones House of the Dragon, which is going to be a prequel series with all the Targaryens and the dragons killing themselves and killing each other.
It's blessed and cursed with the name Game of Thrones, because it's blessed in that it's going to get eyeballs in its first week because it's a Game of Thrones property, and unless it's absolutely flawless and like one of the greatest shows of all time, it's going to be critiqued to shit right at the beginning. And I can see how this is going to work. It's going to go through. It's going to be decent. A lot of people are going to drop off and say how shit it is, and then it's going to get a second season by which it slowly comes up where people are going like, it's actually really good, and then gets like a niche audience. I think that's going to happen because like unfortunately it's just cursed, I think.
I'm thinking the complete opposite, and I
Really?
think that people are gonna love it because everyone just got so fucking sick of Game of Thrones season 8 that I feel like if like it completely depends on whether it's good or not. But if they do just like a solid first season that feels more like original Game of Thrones, original recipe Game of Thrones. Obviously, this is going to start with dragons and stuff, which Game of Thrones didn't necessarily start with. But if they can just start with good, like dramatic storytelling, like rather than coming in, if it just starts and it's like dragons and fire and eating each other, and like if it starts like that, then instantly fans will be like, that's just season 8. We don't want that. But if it starts like the other way and like has like legitimately good storytelling, great acting, like it's clearly going to be worth $1 billion in terms of making it. Like the sets are going to be amazing. They're going to spend so much money on it. So I'm just hoping they do. If they started off on the right foot, I think you're going to get a lot of people back on the Game of Thrones that like back on the Game of Thrones bandwagon. We'll say that like
I hope so because I miss like I miss that time when Premier television was Game of Thrones, and it really was excellent.
Sunday night for like 10 weeks.
Yeah, and like I kind of miss that, and I want it back. And if Game of Thrones can get Game of Thrones back, that would be great.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the thing. There has been no show where it's like you have to watch it.
It's totally like Westworld potentially, but then people were sick of it as well.
By season 3 it lost that. But yeah, super looking forward to that. But next up on HBO, I legitimately think is my most anticipated series in the next like 5 years, being the Last of Us series that they're working on.
It's going to be awesome.
This just like if you we talked about it when it was announced, obviously, but if you were to ask me, like adapt the Last of Us, how would you do it? I would be like, make a HBO series, keep Neil Druckmann involved in like the writing of it and the development of the story, tell the first story, just do like a few little things differently, and get an amazing team behind it that have done another amazing series. And that's exactly what they've done. And they've got the guys from Chernobyl that just absolutely like created one of the best TV like miniseries you're ever going to see on TV in Chernobyl. And they're coming in now to do this. Like everything about Chernobyl, when you actually look at it and you look at it in terms of like that compared to like a Last of Us series, it's like the way that they created the world of Chernobyl. Like if they can just take that kind of like creative touch and put that into like the world of The Last of Us, I cannot wait for this series.
Yeah, like it's going to be amazing, and like everything you said is just totally right. Like it's kind of the exact thing that you want, and it's the thing you wish for. Like I think everyone who's a fan of a show that goes on for a while doesn't necessarily want the movie adaptation. It wants the HBO miniseries, so it can get more of it, and it gets fleshed out, and it gets treated well. So like this is a dream situation for anyone who's a fan of like The Last of Us. And Neil Druckmann, I know people are not so hot in him now after the last game, but myself and yourself both enjoyed the last game, and I thought it was great. And from a storytelling point of view, it was brave, and like I kind of want more of that. So like even getting this, I don't necessarily want a straightforward adaptation. I'd rather if there was slight changes in it. And I think Druckmann hopefully will have the balls to do it even after all the shit he got last time, because he's a good storyteller, and I want him to. I don't want him to just make his paint by numbers. I do want a couple of changes. Obviously, nothing major, really. Like nothing completely like universe breaking or anything along those lines, but like maybe some character changes and some things that didn't happen in the game will happen in this, just so there's something new.
But that's it. Like in terms of like if someone adapts, this is what so many people have been like, I don't want to see the story of Joel and Ellie again. It's like, well, if someone adapts a book, they adapt the story from the book. Like just because the ending in the book doesn't mean you're not going to watch the movie and love it. Like I definitely don't want a shot for shot reimagining, but like I am hoping to see like the general story of like Joel and Ellie and that situation from the first game,
Yeah, like there's different tensions that can be done as well. Like, there's like the whole thing where do you remember when Joel meets the father and the son, or the
Yeah, different
yeah,
ways you
and
can tell those stories.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's a different way to tell that. So like obviously he gets turned towards the end of that as well. But like that could so easily happen in the sewers when they were there and do like a different ending for it and then
yeah,
have the guy confront him thinking that he didn't know the son was bitten, he just thought Joel killed him or something along
yeah.
those lines. Like that's a different beat that you could take that doesn't break the story, but
Mm,
like add something new for anyone who knows what's happening. So,
yeah.
like that's just basic kind of 101 storytelling. So I'm sure Neil Druckmann knows that.
Yeah. But even one of the things that this is just like off topic in terms of what we're talking about, but so ever since I've watched Annihilation, that with Natalie Portman, like that film, the minute they go into that like alien, not
Mm,
even the minute they go into that world where it just everything seems a little bit off, and
yeah.
it almost like seems like I remember when I was watching, I was like, oh my god, this is kind of what a Last of Us world would look like because it's the
Mm,
world we know, but it's totally overgrown and there's
yeah.
weird creatures in there that you kind of have to stay away from. Like, just if you ever
Yeah.
watch Annihilation again, just think about The Last of Us when you're watching it. And it's kind of like as I was going through that film, I remember just thinking like, oh my god, I could not. That was before we even
That's a
knew
good call. Like it definitely has that sort of air about it as well.
weird
And then
eerie.
yeah.
So yeah, I cannot wait for The Last of Us. But moving on to HBO Max. So HBO Max obviously is the new streaming service brand and branch of HBO. They have announced loads of stuff that they're doing, but like I said, we haven't seen anything original content from HBO Max, so we don't know if it's going to be to the level of a HBO series or if it's going to be like a little bit less than that, or what way they're kind of going to do it. But some of the big stuff that we know is coming out of there, from DC in particular, we know that they're working on a Green Lantern movie, a Green Lantern Corps movie, which Greg Berlanti is heading up, which is a shame because he does all the Arrowverse stuff. So I'm really hoping
Yeah.
they've said they're putting a bigger budget into it. It's not related to Arrowverse or anything, so
Mm.
I'm kind of hoping that well, basically, I'm just hoping it's good. I'm hoping it's
Yeah.
not a 22 episode a series kind of thing. Like I'm hoping for like a good 6 or 8 episode type series, high budget, and actually just a good Green
Mm.
Lantern series. So looking forward to that. And then the other one that we know they're working on DC wise is Justice League Dark, which J.J. Abrams is working on the story for this one. In
Mm.
terms of those two DC series, are they at the same kind of hype level for you as some other stuff, or where do they sit for you?
Like again, I'm excited that they're coming, but like I wouldn't like until I see more of it as well. I like I'm not sure if this is something that we'll see at the DC FanDome as well, but until I see more about it and start hearing more about it, I'm not going to get too excited about it. Like I love the idea of the Green Lantern Corps, I love the idea of Justice League Dark, but I kind of need to see names and faces and concepts as well before I really get too attached to it as well. Because there's a lot of good shows that are coming up that are comic book related, and they kind of have my attention at the minute. But like a Green Lantern Corps could be incredible, like probably more so than Justice League Dark, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I
But
think a Justice League Dark series, again, if done well, like it's easy just
yeah,
to be like, oh, it'd be great if it's done well. Everything would be great if it's done well. But like a Justice League Dark series is kind of one of those where it could easily fall into the vibe of
Mhm.
like a Lucifer or a like
Yeah,
not to bash Supernatural because I
Constantine
love
as
Supernatural.
well.
Constantine, yeah, it could easily
Mhm.
fall into that kind of vibe. So again, it's whether or not that's the level of show they're making or if
Yeah,
it's HBO level shows that they're making. So it'll really depend on, like you said, when you see who's cast, who are the people properly behind the scenes, like outside of just like the producers and stuff. So yeah, looking forward to kind of seeing, but need to see more of that. But two
yeah,
series that are coming out in HBO Max, which I am absolutely pumped for, regardless of how much more we know about them, is that we know Dune Dune director Danny Villeneuve, who is this film, like at the end of the year, looks amazing. Dune,
yeah,
like I really can't wait to see it. But he is also producing and creating a series based on characters from that, the Sisterhood. So it's called Dune, the Sisterhood.
Mhm.
But it's going to be obviously like linked to the story in the movie as well. Kind of like a side story based off it. So the fact that he himself is
yeah,
directly involved in this series is what's kind of like he's making the movie, but also involved in like creating the series. So that kind of makes me feel that like it's going to be a high level,
yeah,
like
and
in
it's
terms
gonna
of
be it's gonna be like a proper sort of branch off from the film as well. So
yeah,
like it's gonna have that just epic quality about it, like that the June should have. Like it's gonna be awesome.
yeah, and he's just such a ludicrously good director. Like
He's
his
so underrated, it's
visual
insane.
style and like I don't know if he's going to have Roger Deakins involved in the series now in terms of cinematography, but like his last couple of films have just looked
Yeah,
amazing and just been such a high quality, and like you said, totally underrated in terms of like
Yeah. Maybe not
slower
even
level.
underrated because people love him, but he's underappreciated. I think like all his
Yeah,
films come out and they don't do as well as they deserve to. Like
yeah,
Blade Runner deserved to be such a bigger piece of medium than it was, and same with Arrival. It's kind of all his films are better than what people see.
yeah.
Yeah,
The number
it's
of
just
people.
better than the situation. So like having him involved with anything is just exciting.
Yeah. And another series that was announced that J.J. Abrams is also involved in is Overlook, which is going to be based on the Overlook Hotel from The
Mhm.
Shining. The Shining, I absolutely love.
Mhm.
Um, and so any kind of a story where they're going into the store, like an actual story. I don't know if it's going to be like anthology stories set in the Overlook Hotel, or if it's
Mhm.
just going to be like a prequel story about some of the
Oh.
characters that have died in the Overlook over the years.
I prefer an
Um,
anthology one because like it could look at all the different versions and how the hotel twists people, and like that whole scene as well where it turned out that he was or made it seem that he's always been there or he's always been part of it. Like what is that? Do you know what I mean? Like what's going on there? It'd be just so interesting, and I'd rather see that from different perspectives and then
yeah,
trying to figure out who all these different people are, and maybe one that opens up with when the hotel was first built and it has all those people in there, and maybe when
yeah,
things started to happen. Like again, I'm not the biggest fan of horror as well, but like just anything to do with The Shining, I do like. I know I haven't seen Doctor Sleep yet, Criminal, but
Lord.
like yeah, it's just something about that hotel that I find the whole thing fascinating, and I love a good mystery, even if it is scary, and I kind of want to know more about that place. So this is quite exciting, and JJ, God, I love it. I love JJ.
Yeah, good guy to start the story. Get rid of him
Yeah,
after the first season, but after once
he's
he
good
sets
for a
it up,
mystery. He's great for a mystery.
yeah, he's good for setting it up. And plus, yeah, anyone that hasn't seen Doctor Sleep yet,
Yeah.
get on it. It's absolutely astounding. Might be a bit biased, but it's class. It's really good. Um, Another series that we know is coming to again, like what HBO Max seems to be doing is taking spin-offs of a lot of movies, which is great if they keep them to the level. But obviously we know that Batman or not Batman, the Batman spin-off series of the Batman that Matt Reeves is working on,
Mhm.
he is obviously doing a series now for HBO Max on Gotham PD. So I don't know
Mhm.
they haven't announced the official title yet, but it basically is going to be a prequel story on the Gotham Police Department before I think Batman
Yeah.
becomes Batman in the Batman film. So yeah, like the fact that Matt Reeves is involved in it has me kind of excited, and the fact that they also have like a amazing creative team behind us. I can't remember the guy's name, but I know they've got some creators on from like I think it's the writer of The Wolf of Wall Street and
Mhm.
someone who was involved in The Sopranos as well. So like they've got a stellar team behind the scenes. So yeah, I can't wait for it. Are you excited for this series?
Yeah, like I know we talked about it. I think it was last week as well. Like I'm not really excited, but like anything in that world is exciting. But like it completely depends on what they're putting into it, and I could get angry as well. Like I'd be happy if they brought in some of the cast and characters that are related to like Batman lore, but at the same time, I'm like I don't want them there unless Batman's there. So like it's a weird one. So like it completely depends on what take they go with this, and it could be interesting. Like if they do a mafia drama with the Falcone families and then hint to something weirder and crazier about the city, I think I'd be happy with that. But I'll always know that there's something more coming and there's probably a more interesting story coming in the years to come. So it's gonna be hard to overlook it. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
I suppose like I'm not gonna rush out for it, but like I'll watch it when it comes on, I'd say.
To get you even more excited for it, like I was saying,
Mm,
his Terrence Winter
mm,
is the writer that I was talking about. He's going to be on this, but like he produced and directed episodes of The Sopranos. He created Boardwalk Empire,
yeah.
co-created Vinyl as well afterwards with HBO, and then got an Oscar nomination for his screenplay with The Wolf of Wall Street. So
Well, see,
like,
there's the mafia ties. Then if
yeah,
they're like,
exactly.
if they do
So
the Falcone and Maroni and
yeah,
that type of thing, like that would be really interesting, and I'd like to see that. And then again, hint at the weirder, wider world that is kind of Gotham, and
yeah,
future things that potentially could happen without ever going into it. Because like the last thing I want is like a henchman to come out and he's like, oh, this guy he was in the Arctic and now he's frozen. Oh, what is he, Doctor Freeze? And then it's like a
yeah,
version of a Doctor Freeze. Like I don't want that. I'd like
yeah.
do a crime drama set in that city and maybe have like the Waynes involved or something that could be
Yeah,
interesting.
the Wayne family or something. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, there was also a rumor this week, or was it last week, that
Mm.
apparently they're also working on a Catwoman spin-off series, with Zoe Kravitz.
Oh.
Um, Whether or not that's true, I don't like. We obviously don't know, but
Funny
obviously,
enough, that's a good casting though as well. I like Zoe Kravitz. I think that could be
yeah.
interesting.
Well, we know she's obviously in the film. She's
Yeah.
in the Batman. Whether or not, I think the rumor behind this one was that she was either not going to become Catwoman in the series, or she was going to become Catwoman
Mm.
in this story. Like this is going to kind of be the prequel story of it. Whether or not this is happening now, I don't know. And obviously on this list, we're just talking about shows that are officially
Yeah.
confirmed. So we'll move on from that one. The last kind of big service that we have is Amazon, who, to be honest, this is probably the closest you're going to get to the next Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And that is the Lord of the Rings series that they're working on over at
The
Amazon.
original Game of Thrones, The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. This series has all the potential to be legitimately be the next Game of Thrones. The fact that it's coming out on Amazon kind of takes away that like premiere television that you have to tune in to watch it kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like in terms of like level of a show, like they're putting, I think is it 200 million they've put into like these series.
Yeah, like there was word on it like being across 2 series or something like that, wasn't it? $1 billion or something along those lines as a whole, like something crazy. And like I've watched The Expanse this year as well. That when it came over from Sci-Fi and went to Amazon, and just the level of quality of like what that show looks like on Amazon because of the money and like love they put into it. Like I can only imagine what this will look like for the Lord of the Rings, considering that the last versions we got with the Hobbits kind of looked a little bit messy. That I do think this is good, and like this will be our first look at like the Lord of the Rings that's not going to be told from Peter Jackson. So like this will be really interesting as well. So yeah. Awesome.
And they've been putting together a really, really interesting cast as well, which I kind of like about it. Similar to Game of Thrones, like they're casting a lot of like unknowns essentially, which hopefully will mean that like they just kind of inhabit those characters, and like a lot of like really good character actors that can kind of come in, because the last thing you want is like a Brad Pitt showing up in Middle Earth where you're like, this is I'm not buying this. So again, that's the one that probably I would say has the most potential to be like the next must watch kind of show.
Totally.
The only thing taken away from it, if this was on HBO, it would be legitimately the next Game of Thrones. The fact that it's on Amazon, like people are still going to see it because so many people have Amazon Prime, but I don't know if it'll have the same, I guess, cultural impact. Because
well, I think what they want is that when this comes out, because it's the same with HBO, like, you know, not a lot of people on HBO, but like obviously people would watch it on Sky across here as well. But like, you know, I know we don't talk about it that much as well, but like obviously the piracy numbers for those shows were so massive, and when they talked about the people watching it, they would pull the piracy and downloading numbers as well. And I reckon it'll be something similar for Amazon Prime, except unlike HBO, I think Amazon will play smart to that, and what they'll do is they'll offer free trials for people to get the service as well. And I think this could be the show that gets a lot of people onto that service. I'm not saying it's going to kill Netflix or anything along those lines, but I reckon they'll get a lot of normal people who wouldn't have considered getting Amazon Prime. They'll get them on board with this show. So, and like that's ultimately their game anyway. So it'll work.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazon are also working on the animated series of Invincible, which I can't wait to see how this.
Dying for this.
I can't wait to see this. I haven't read the full Invincible comic now, but it's such what I have read of it so far is like it's just such a great story. It's such a cool, different kind of take on a young man, like on a young boy getting superpowers, should I say, with like a superpowered father. But the fact that they're making it's so gritty and it's so gory. It's a Robert Kirkman comic who wrote the Walking Dead. But like it's such a gritty and gory comic that like if you done it live action, it would be like a version of The Boys essentially. Like the characters are that powerful and they're legitimately like ripping people apart. So I'm looking forward to seeing them doing like an R-rated animated version of it. So yeah, I think that was due out later this year, but I think now it's probably going to be pushed because you haven't heard much more about it. But can't wait for that to come out. And then the last thing that Amazon kind of have is they also bought the rights to The Wheel of Time, which is a huge fantasy story, kind of a mixture between like Game of Thrones, Star Wars, and Dune almost. Like there's just so much to this story, which they could adapt, and it could like it. I keep saying like the next Game of Thrones, but it's like it's such a story that like it's a book property that has everything there to become like the next like Lord of the Rings level franchise, or the next whatever like Game of Thrones level franchise that no one knew about beforehand. And I know it's got a lot of fans, and obviously they're going to pump shed loads of money into it as well. That's going to be a while off. I'd say that's going to be at least 2 years now before we see anything from that, because they've only started working on it. But another huge property that could be great. That's mostly all we have from the streaming services. The last 4 shows we had here are just random ones that are coming from like random streaming services or random channels. Why the Last Man is still in development at FX, but like,
They're still firing lead men. Like
yeah,
they had my boy up there at the start.
yeah,
And like they got rid of him, and now I don't even know who's going to come in now as the main cast or whatever. So like like this show had so much promise, and now I'm starting to think it's just complete poison chalice. So I don't even know if it's going to be good anymore.
yeah. Well, like when you fire half the cast and the creative
Yeah.
director, like after you started development, like yeah,
I'm
it's
convinced as well. Like I know people weren't hot him as well, but Barry Keoghan looked like I thought he'd be a great casting for it as well. I really did. And then yeah, it's just I don't know what they're gonna go with anymore. And then they fire everyone and then it's on pause and then it's not. And the series is just so good and so well adapted. But the only thing is that it's gonna have parallels now with like The Last of Us, because I know it's not zombies or anything along those lines, but the world is dystopia and it'll be quite similar and it'll be road trippy and like
yeah.
it'll have that comparisons to probably a far superior show. And I think they might have missed their window with this. So I'm not actually as excited about this as I would have been like a year or 2 years ago. So
The fact that it's still in development with FX, like they didn't have it in development for a while now, so I'm
Joseph
almost
Gordon-Levitt was set to play him like 8 years ago
ages
at
ago.
this stage.
Shia LaBeouf was meant to play
Yeah.
him in a movie years ago
Oh,
as well. I'm almost just like hoping that it
mm.
almost gets like it goes into like development hell for like a year,
Yeah.
and then like like HBO Max pick up the rights to it, and they're just like
Yeah.
we're just
I
gonna do
want
it.
someone else pick up the rights to it and get rid of everyone who was involved in a project and just start from scratch, because the source material is good. So like just build something on it.
CBS All Access have the rights to Stephen King's The Stand, which is
Mhm.
another awesome novel. Got a lot of potential with it, but again, CBS
Yeah.
have really only done Star Trek stuff thus far, and it's been very hit or miss for the Star Trek community, because neither of us, we don't
No.
give a shit about Star Trek. We talk
I
about this all the
hate
time.
Star Trek as I've said like loads of times before. It is the worst show that's ever existed ever. Come at me.
Oh, come at me, bro. That's not true. I don't mind it.
Nah.
I don't necessarily like it though. But
We both hate it, Keith.
be honest, all right. So yeah, like I'm a huge Stephen King fan, so I'm hoping they do something good with that, but I'm not really holding out hope with CBS. They're doing a Battlestar Galactica series with Peacock,
Yeah.
which is the other NBC Universal streaming service, which has just recently entered the race, but
Mhm.
entered at a snail's pace, basically. But they're doing a new Battlestar Galactica. I've never watched Battlestar Galactica, but I know people that have, and they've
I've
been
watched
big
parts
fans
of
of it.
it, and it's good. Like I watch parts of the web series and stuff, but it's kind of one of those shows that it's the barrier to entry is so high. Like you kind of need to either read the novels beforehand or be aware of the web series or read up on stuff before it starts. But like I like a lot of people say, once you get over that initial barrier, like the show is excellent as well. So like I'm kind of hoping this might be a good starting point to get people on board, because I like the idea of the show, but like I'm not going back to watch like 300 episodes of a show that was made like 10 years ago, and it visually probably doesn't hold up anymore. So
And then the final one that I had on the list was The Continental. So we were talking about John Wick
mhm.
earlier in the show. So The Continental is a spin-off series they're doing on the Continental Hotel.
Nice.
It's with stars, so
Mhm.
it only has a certain level of goodness that it can be when it's with a series like that. Not that I don't like Star series, but like it's nowhere near like
Mhm.
the level of like a really good Netflix series or a like a HBO series or anything like that. Not that that's the detriment of it. Like they could still do a really good series,
Yeah.
and if it's going to be anything to do with John Wick, like all the John Wick films have been super low budget as far
Yeah.
as like a big budget movie can go. But like really got the best out of it. So if they can make a really good
Mm.
like Hitman type series on the
This
Continental
this
for a low
reeks of
budget.
like a limitless TV show almost. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
this good overall concept and probably good on paper, but as soon as you put it like what's the second story? So like is the first story someone has a fight at the Continental? What happens afterwards? You know what I mean? Like is it something else? Is it like every week someone comes to stay in the Continental and it focuses on like the concept needs to be stronger than that. Like the Continental is an excellent piece of world building in the John Wick universe, but like to live by itself, oh I don't know. I really
can
don't
you build a
know.
full series
Yeah.
about it? Anything John Wick related, I'm always gonna at least watch it.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. Were there any other series or anything that you were excited about, or is that I think we've kind of hit most
That's
of them
really
there?
it. Like obviously these are the ones that are in production. Like there's so many good shows that are coming into like their second and third seasons and stuff like that are all coming up as well. That's going to be incredible. So like we're kind of really spoiled for a TV when it comes up. We didn't even touch on the Marvel stuff as you mentioned as well.
Yeah,
That's going to come up. DC FanDome, like we talked about at the top of the show as well. There might be new announcements there that isn't even on this list. So like we're kind of spoiled for choice over the next couple of years. So I'm actually super excited. And if even half these shows come out and half would, or even like 3 or 4 of these shows are decent, I'll be happy out, because like the quality is great and not all of them are going to be good. And as you said, it's going to be fun to look back to see if, Why the Last Man is still in production in a couple of years' time as well. Or like if the Game of Thrones killer is Game of Thrones and it comes back to go on another, run. It'll just be interesting to see now, because it's fun to look at these shows and think about what they could be. And the closer we come to it, we're going to start seeing it, and then the cracks might appear. But all these are pretty good sounding so far. So I'm definitely excited. Top three. So Avatar: The Last Airbender number 1. Probably Last of Us number 2, and do you know what? It's probably Lord of the Rings as well. Like I have Obi-Wan there, which would be good as well, that I'm looking forward to. Obviously Game of Thrones I'm looking forward to, but I think Lord of the Rings probably nabs in there, but definitely Avatar: The Last Airbender number 1. What's your 3?
I'd say at number 3 would either be Obi-Wan or Sandman. I'm just so curious to see a good Sandman done right.
I'm more curious than excited.
I'm almost similar to the way I was at Lock and Key when Lock and Key was coming out. I was just curious to see, like, can they pull it off? Turns out they can't. But with Sandman, we'll see how they can do. So between those two, but then at number 2 it would be The Overlook. I can't wait what they do with like I love good horror series. Like The Haunting of Hill is still one of my favorite series of all time. Like it's just so good. So if they can capture any of that feeling that they captured with Dr. Sleep as well, I know Mike Hannigan's not involved in this series, but if they can capture any of that feel, like that, The Shining, like just watching it makes you feel uncomfortable in the best way in terms of like horror movies. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then number 1 is definitely Last of Us. I cannot wait. Cannot wait for that. But I think that's all we got for this week. A nice longy this week with a good old topic.
Long boy.
A long boy. But as always, guys, we hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy and you're watching on YouTube, we would love if you give this a like. Subscribe to the channel, share, tell other people about it. If you're listening on Netflix, well, you wouldn't be listening to Netflix. We're not on Netflix.
Not yet. They'll pick us up.
Exactly. We're going to be bought soon. They know the potential of the show. If you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or any of those things, you can rate us. We would love. Give us another 5-star and give us a rating, or even 2 stars and tell us why, because we're just going to delete you and never let you listen to us again. But give us a rating and review. Apparently all that kind of stuff helps the show. And hope you enjoyed. And if there's anything that we missed out on in terms of series that you're excited for, send us a DM and we'll bring it up in next week's episode as well. And stay safe. Wash your hands.
Wash your hands. Don't spit at people.
Spit at people. Yeah, exactly. And
don't go to the cinema unless Tenant's playing.
Yeah, I'll see you there. I'll socially distance. We're sitting in the cinema together.
If there's no filming on, don't go to the cinema.
I would be there, regardless. All right, see you later, guys.
See you, Jimmy. Bye.